Growth. My latest in a series of boyfriends broke up with me. We had been hanging out. He bore his testimony and told me we couldn't date anymore. Being homosexual was wrong, and the atonement could right all wrongs. He left. I felt nothing at the prospect of never seeing him again. On the night we broke up, I didn't cry about losing him. No, I cried about Easton. I mourned the relationship that never was. Easton's smile and demeanor were now a memory. Gone was the look in his eyes while we talked in the backseat of his car, his kiss and touch. I was going to be alone forever. I attended my final counseling session with Nyla Rousseau. I sat in my usual place on his couch talking about the recent developments in my life. We both knew what my rejection from the Marriott School would mean. This would be our last session. "You've made a lot of progress," Nyla said. I nodded. I was still depressed, but I was keeping busy. I felt happier than I had during the school year. There was a moment a few sessions ago when I felt we had gotten to the core of some of the pain you've been feeling. "I remember," I said. "I kind of view that as the beginning of healing for me, you know?" "How's the situation with Easton now?" Nyla asked. If only I knew how I felt. Something not quite love and not quite hate, but a pendulum between the two emotions. It was like I was incapable of feeling nothing for him. I think I'm starting to move on, but I'm not sure. Now that we won't be meeting anymore, what's your plan going forward? My lips twisted. Just have to keep going, I guess. I sort of started outlining a book about the last year. I kept a decent journal and I have all my texts, so I was thinking about writing it all down. Nyla's eyes rose. I think writing things out is a healthy way to work through your emotions. You'll have to let me know how it goes. I will. Nyla gave an affirmative nod. Where are you with the church? I wouldn't have ever chosen to leave, I said in a hesitant voice. But since I'm here, I doubt if I'll ever go back. What if they changed tomorrow and welcomed you with open arms? Nyla asked, playful tone emphasizing the preposterous nature of the hypothetical. I chewed on his question. It's too late, for me at least. I think I'm kind of done worrying about it. You don't believe? I just don't care, I said. It's too much work right now to think through what I believe. Sounds like a discussion for another day then. I looked away. Yeah, I guess so. But I would never be back here, in this room, learning to talk. Learning to say the emotions that could not be translated into words. Learning about myself, my hopes, regrets, and values. I was very aware that I would likely never talk to Nyla again. He had stood me back up on my feet, but stepping out the door was scary. Well, Nyla said, this may be our last session, but we can still make good use out of the half hour we have left. What can we dig into? I puffed my lip out, thinking. In so many ways, I had grown into a new person this year, but in other ways, I was still that fragile boy who was just barely standing on his own. I'd kind of like to know where you think I am, and what might be best for me to do going forward. Some of that depends on what you want, Nyla said. Have you given that any thought? My leg bounced against the chair. For a while now, I've felt like I have 4 options. I can marry a woman. I held up a finger. Stay celibate my entire life. Another finger. Live a gay lifestyle, or commit suicide. More fingers. Have you been suicidal? Nyla asked. No more than usual. I understand why my thoughts sometimes go there now, but I guess that doesn't entirely stop me from viewing it as a good idea. Contemplation swallowed Nyla's face. Are you open to restructuring that perception? I suppose. Let's define an option as something that contributes to future choices, Nyla said. Okay. So therefore, suicide is not an option, by definition, Nyla said. That seemed like a technicality to me. Okay. For something to be an option, it must lead to future options, Nyla repeated. I don't know if I agree, I said. Because it is an option if all other options are worse. And what if you haven't considered all your options? Nyla asked. Then suicide would be a bad call, but you wouldn't be around long enough to know. I felt myself growing frustrated. I thought counselors were supposed to be about maintaining zen and shit. Married, celibate, gay, or dead. I held up my fingers again. That seems pretty all-encompassing to me. You bring up an interesting point. Nyla wasn't letting up on me. Let's examine your use of the term gay lifestyle. How do you define that? I don't know, I said. Try. Like, just kind of reckless, I guess. Drinking, drugs, partying, lots of sex. And just to be clear, those are negative in your opinion, Nyla said. It's not what I want, I said. I don't need to attach morality to those actions to say I'm not interested. It's just not me. Put me in a library with a laptop and you've got yourself a Friday night party with me. Nyla laughed. And gay culture is just toxic anyway. I feel like half of them are hung up on religion and the other half just want sex. I don't fit in there. And everyone is so opinionated about the best way to live and what you should believe. They're all so confident in their ideas, and I'm over here like, okay, but why are you so confident? And what if you're wrong? Okay, Nyla said, like we were getting somewhere. There's a lot to unpack there. Is there anything innate about being gay that causes people to drink and have illicit sex and push their opinions? I squirmed under his examining gaze. No. Nyla watched my reaction. Then maybe living a gay lifestyle shouldn't be just one option. Maybe it can look like something more traditional, like two people committed to one another. But what if that's impossible to find? I asked, throwing my hands up. What if we're all just so broken by our programmed self-hatred that we can't get away from meaningless hookups and alcoholism? Why would you think that? Nyla asked. That's been my experience, I said. Nyla was silent for a long time, watching me with steepled fingers pressed against his lips. I'm sorry that's been your experience. It's like we're all just living in a crappy YA novel. I looked away. And I hate YA. What's YA? You know. I gave a hand gesture to Nyla's uncomprehending face. This is probably how straight men feel when talking about sports with me. Like young adult fiction. I see, Nyla said. What about it? I twisted my mouth. In YA fiction, every character has these self-created problems that wouldn't exist if they were just honest with themselves and others. And there's always a house party or rave where they drink. And the author can never seem to decide if they want to glamorize partying or critique self-destructive behavior. It always just leaves me feeling that there has to be more to life than learning lessons too late and drowning sorrows in alcohol while clinging to people who don't give a shit about you. Is there a reason you have to do those things? Nyla asked. No, I said in a soft voice. I just want to believe that I belong somewhere. But I don't belong in the church, and I don't belong out of it. I had this Utah culture burned into my personality, and now that it's backfired, I have nothing. Happiness can't come from the church, or partying, or a USGA committee. I'll never date anyone, or get a job. Everyone else can see that there's something wrong with me, and I'm not worth anyone's time. And maybe I don't want to make time for them because everyone wants me to be a version of myself that benefits them. They act like it would be so easy to make all these little adjustments to myself so I can be worth loving. I was breathing hard and trying not to cry by the end of my rant. Sorry. Nyla took a long time to respond. There's been a couple of times in past sessions, he said in a thoughtful drawl. You asked me how to reconcile your faith and sexuality. I remember. Have you made any headway there? Nyla asked. Not much. You have your beliefs pulling you in one way, and your feelings pulling you in another. But also, you're afraid of losing yourself in either direction, because you think other people will seek to define you, Nyla said. Is that accurate? Yeah, I said, lightening up. I had never considered it in those terms, but it was true. Do you ever ask yourself what you want? Nyla asked. Just ignore all the noise trying to define faith and sexuality. Do you know what you want? I compressed my lips and shifted to look down at my feet. I want to be with someone I love. My voice caught in emotion. And I want them to love me back. You've said that in the past. Why isn't that option on your list of 4 possibilities for your future? Nilo said. I said before, it doesn't feel possible, even if it's what I want, I said. After what happened with Easton and all I've done afterward, I think the fact that you got so close to what you want with the first person you dated might suggest that it is possible, Nilo said. You're headed off to a new school, a new social pool. You'll have room to breathe. I think the chances of you finding what you want are high enough to consider it as an option. Happiness, I said. That's the option. Nilo smiled. Happiness. The rest is just details.